Hi guys, my name is Ryan, the Frugal Analyst, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to travel for free or almost free using credit card bonus points. Now, the credit card sign-up game is very lucrative today. I only sign up for cards that's valued at least $400 or more for travel, and I usually average around $600 per card sign-up. And I've been doing this for a long time. So in the past 5 years, I've signed up for 28 different credit cards, and I've been to Hawaii 3 times, New York, Boston, Austin, San Francisco, Vancouver, and many other cities, paying mostly using credit card points. So in this video, I'll show you guys a step-by-step on how to do it, and I'll share with you guys my best practices and technique to get the best deal on each card. So if you're interested, please keep watching. At a high level, this game is pretty simple. You basically sign up for a card, meet the minimum spending requirements, use the points for travel, close the card, and do it all over in 2 years. Now there is work involved. I would say around 4 to 5 hours is required per card, and that includes valuing the card, setting up automatic payment, closing the card, and making sure you track all of this information correctly. So if you're making more than, I would say, $100 per hour post-tax, this is not worth it. But I'm making a lot less than that, so I think this deal is really lucrative. Before I get into the step-by-step, let me give some background on why credit card companies are giving such large bonuses for travelers. A few years back, when data mining and analytics started in finance, credit card companies found out that people who travel actually spend a lot more money. And because credit card companies makes money from outstanding interest, late fees, and a small fraction of every transaction, they wanted to incentivize travelers to join their card program. And that's why all these bonuses that I mentioned in this video are going to be a lot better if you use it for travel than if you were to, say, use it to get a cashback or gift cards. So to me, there are 3 different categories of credit card sign-up bonuses. The first one is airlines, and you're talking about your American Airline, your Delta, Southwest, Hawaiian Airline, United, and these are all airline points that you can use to travel with the airline. The next category I would say is called hotels. So hotels, you're talking about your Marriott, your Hyatt, your SPG, your Hilton, and you can use the points basically for the hotels, the chain hotels. And the last category I would call is the travel statement credit. And you're talking about the Chase Sapphires, Reserve, and Preferred, your Amex Gold, your Capital One Venture, your Wells Fargo Propel, your Barclay Arrival. So usually when I travel, I'll use the bonus from a variety of cards. Usually for a weekend trip, I might just use 2 different bonus cards. On a week-long trip or more, I might use up to 5 different credit cards, airline card for getting to my destination, hotel card for lodging, and general travel statement credit for car rentals and cruises, and if I don't have enough airline or hotel points. So before you sign up, keep in mind those 3 categories, so hopefully you could combine, let's say, airline and hotels in one trip so that you could cover both your flight and also your lodging. Now, before you sign up for your first card, the first thing you should do is to value the card. Each card has a different value, and everybody will value each card differently, depending on where you are, what's your go-to airport, where do you really want to go, and the bonus that the card gives. Does it have an annual fee in the first year, or can you waive it in the first year? So every card has a different value. So let me show you how to value a card. I think the first one, let me give an example just using the Southwest card. So let me switch to a screen share here. So if you go to the Southwest website, For example, you wanted to value, hey, how much does 1 point in Southwest is actually worth? So go to the Southwest website. Let's type in San Diego to Oakland. This is my go-to route if I'm going to San Francisco. And click here using points. And here you can see that, let's say the cheapest flight, 3,395 points. And if you click here, going to the dollars, you can see that it's $61. If you do the math, 61 divided by 3,395, you'll get around a 1.8 cents per point. So Southwest is not really a main hub in San Diego where I am. So if I'm going to Oakland, that's great, I have a direct flight, but usually if I go to New York, I'll have to transfer. So a little bit of an inconvenience, but it's okay. I could just use this for going to Oakland, for example. So for Southwest, 1.8 cents per point. And usually if you sign up for a Southwest card, there's usually an annual fee. So you'll have to incorporate that as well. So if you just Google Southwest credit card, you could see the first entry here. You could either sign up for 40,000 points or 65,000 points, but there is an annual fee that you have to pay to get the Southwest card. Now, the card that I just got recently, the City Thank You points, this is a general travel statement credit card. This card does not have an annual fee for the first year. So again, in my screen share here, type in City Thank You. They're offering 60,000 points right now, which is a huge bonus. I would say this is worth around $800. So this is a general travel statement credit card. They give you 60,000 points, and in the bottom they tell you that you can get 25% more value if you use it for travel. I know it says airfare here, but I did confirm that if you use it for travel through their portal, you'll get 25% more. And the requirement for this card is to spend $4,000 within the first 3 months of account opening. So adding 60,000 points times 1.25, that's equivalent to 750, plus the $4,000 that you're spending and you're getting points on those, that's additional $50. And there is no annual fee for the first year. It says that the fee is waived for the first 12 months. So this card overall is worth $800. Now let me give you an example of a hotel points. My absolute favorite is the Hyatt card. So if you were to go to the Hyatt website and trying to calculate, hey, how much does Hyatt points actually worth? Let's go to one of my favorite hotels, the Hyatt Place Waikiki, and let's check that use points box. You could see that this hotel is $12,000 per night. If you were using cash, it'll cost you $204 plus tax and potentially resort fees. So for the Hyatt points, I would say it's worth around 1.7 cents per point, but it really depends on where you're going. Hyatt is really good for when you're basically buying a low tier hotels like a Hyatt Place or a Hyatt House, or a very premium property such as the Hyatt Regency in Hawaii or the Park Hyatt in New York. So depending on where you're going, the point value will fluctuate, and sometimes you need to buy either the cheapest one or the most expensive one to get your money's worth. Usually somewhere in the middle doesn't really give you as much value. And this is the same if you're talking about, let's say, American airline points. So let's see here, you go from, Let's say you go from San Diego to Honolulu. Let's do a one-way, redeem with miles, and let's choose somewhere in October. So here, American Airlines, you can see here in the points calendar, depending on when you travel, you could get 20,000 points on a Saturday, which is a really good deal, or 50,000 points the next Saturday. So for American Airlines, similar to Hyatt, you either spend it on low season or you spend it on very high season. You don't really want to spend it on the middle, such as these 40,000 points or 50,000 points. I would spend usually American Airlines on the low season, and that card usually I value around 1 to 1.2 cents per points. Now that you know how to value how much each point is worth for each product, the next step is to really time your credit card sign up. So over the year, credit card bonus points will fluctuate. So this card that I just got, the Citi Thank You that I showed you earlier, the 60,000 points, that is one of the highest points that they're giving. Usually it's around 50,000 points, and I've seen it as low as 40,000 points. Now you want to make sure that when you apply when they're giving out the highest number of points, because once you apply, you probably can't apply for that product again until 2 more years. So make sure you snipe the right time so that you can max out the points that you get from each card. Another angle to value the card points is the transfer capability. Depending on the card, you might be able to transfer your points into a different entity. For example, the Sapphire, Reserve, and Preferred, these are general travel statement credit cards. And in addition to buying car rentals, hotels, flights from their portal, you could transfer their points into Southwest and Hyatt. So if you're missing, let's say 1,000 points for Southwest and you just need a little bit more, you don't want to buy it from Southwest, you could transfer from their portal into Southwest points, and you could buy your ticket without buying, let's say, 1,000 points from Southwest. That's going to be super expensive. Another benefit that credit cards might give you is these miscellaneous benefits. For example, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, they allow me to get my TSA Global for free. So this is $100 cost if I were to pay out of pocket, where I can get the TSA pre-check. So depending on the card, they might give you a perk like TSA Global Entry or maybe a lounge pass. Depending on how you're using the benefit, make sure you know that, hey, certain cards have different benefits. If you're looking to use those benefits, that they'll add value to the card. So I cover a lot of topics here. Let me summarize. The first step to value your card is to value each point. How much does each point actually worth to you? And everybody will have a different type of valuation. Number 2 is timing. Make sure you sign up when the bonus is at its highest point. 3 is the transferability of points. Make sure you know how flexible each one of your points are, so you could transfer it from one entity to another if need be. Number 4 is the miscellaneous benefits. If you're using TSA Global, if you're using a lounge, make sure you check what your card provides in addition to the points. Now you're ready to sign up for your first card. Now with just one card, it's probably easy to track, but once you have 5 cards open, I think you need a better system to track all of your signups. So what I have is I have a spreadsheet where I jot down all of my credit card signups. So download it below in the description, and it's an Excel document. And let me go over each one of the fields that you should fill out when you're applying for a card. So here in this document, the first field is card. So I'm going to use my Citi Thank You card as an example. Write down the issuer and the product. This is important because you can apply for multiple cards from an issuer, but usually only once every 2 years per product. So for this one is Citi Thank You. The next two column is the fee. So this card, the Citi Thank You, have a $95 annual fee, but it is waived in the first year. So if I close the card before the first year, I won't get charged the fee. Next column is the rewards and the requirements. Jot down how much is the bonus points and what do you have to do to get those points. Next is the open date. This tells me how long do I have to meet the minimum spend requirements. So if I need to spend $4,000 in 3 months, I'll start it when I do my application. So 7/25, that's when I actually applied. And 3 months after that, I should have at least $4,000 in spend. The next column is the auto pay. I don't want to get charged any interest fees, so I want to make sure that I pay the whole statement balance at the end of each statement month. Points received. Once I receive the points, I'll flip this toggle into a yes. Sync to Mint. So if you have a lot of cards, Mint is really useful. I use Mint mostly to mitigate any fraud in my accounts. If I have 5 cards open, I'm not looking at each card every day. And Mint really helps me see if some of my cards have fraud or not. I think in the last 5 years, I probably have around 1 fraud per year. So just putting it on Mint allows me to control everything in one platform. Close date. So before 1 year, I'll probably close this card. I'll jot down the close date because in 2 years, I could probably reapply for the card again. So to give you an example, this Barclay Arrival, I have so many of them. One of my favorite cards. That's a statement credit card, and I wanted to know my close date so that after I close it 2 years later, I want to apply for it again. The next field is the value. So the value for the Citi Thank You is $800. Let me go through the math real quick. You have 60,000 points, and each point is worth 1.25 cents. So just from the points alone, you're getting around $750, and you're gonna spend $4,000. They'll give you a point per purchase. There's more if you spend it on different categories, but at least 1 point per dollar spent. So if you multiply the $4,000 that you're spending, you're getting basically 80,000 cents or $800. So that's the value for the Citi Thank You. With 60,000 points, it's $800. And usually I jot down some additional notes. So that's the spreadsheet. So over time, I'll keep adding to this spreadsheet. Of course, this is not my real spreadsheet. This is a template for you guys. In my spreadsheet, I did count that I signed up for 28 different cards in the last 5 years. Next, in this spreadsheet, I actually have a tab for card list. This is just a reference. So I mentioned before the 3 categories: the airline, hotels, and statement credit. In here, these are some of my favorite credit cards. So airlines, the Chase Southwest, they have 2 of them, the Premier and the Plus. The Citibank, American Airline Advantage, the Barclay Aviator card for American Airlines. There's British Airways, Delta, Hawaiian Airlines, Hyatt, Marriott, SPG, Hilton, Capital One Venture, Chase Sapphire Reserve and Preferred, Citi Thank You, Wells Fargo Propel, Amex Gold. There's actually many more. in addition to this list, but these are just some of my favorites. Now that you guys know how to track your credit card sign up, the next thing is to know how to plan a trip. So it's best if you can plan a trip early. I'm going to show you a sample of a trip that I did earlier this year. I went from San Diego to Honolulu and Maui. So in this other tab here in the same spreadsheet, this is just an example of what I did. So total it was 10 days for 2 people. So it's much easier also if you have 2 people, you're kind of sharing the points. So in this trip, it's 10 days from San Diego to Honolulu and then to Maui and then back to San Diego. So I have here the retail price, the type of spend, and the points that I'm using, and the cash that I'm paying out of pocket. So the first thing I did was I went from San Diego to Honolulu Airport. For 2 people, costed me 45,000 AA points and $172 in cash. So I got charged cash because I booked this trip pretty last minute. So for American Airlines, there is a small line item which says that if you book it within, I think it's 27 days, you have to pay around $80 per person. Plus, you always have to pay the TSA fees. So total, I actually have to pay $172 in cash. If I planned it earlier, I'll only have to pay $12. So this trip costed me 45,000 AA points for 2 people, one way from San Diego to Honolulu. In Honolulu, I stayed in one of my favorite hotels, the Hyatt Place Waikiki. That costed me 12,000 Hyatt points. And for my last 2 nights, I actually used my Chase Sapphire Preferred. So I have some points from there. I transferred it to Hyatt. When I did the math, if I were to use it as a statement credit from Chase Sapphire Preferred versus Hyatt points, which one gives me the most benefit? And because the Hyatt points covers the resort fee and the taxes, using the 12,000 points, transferring it from Chase Sapphire Preferred to Hyatt is much more worth it. And that's why I transfer my points from the Preferred into Hyatt and use it for the hotel. Then I flew from Honolulu to Maui, and this costed me $220. I didn't have any points left for this flight, so $220 for 2 people, not too bad. Then I arrived in Maui. So Maui is actually very expensive. The hotel there retails at around $400 per night, or 20,000 Hyatt points. So I decided to use again the Hyatt points. The first 2 nights I have some remaining points, and I share this with my friend that I travel with. The last 2 nights I actually didn't have much points left, so I actually borrowed some points from my parents. So usually I'll help them sign up for credit cards. So last year I bought a trip for them to Atlanta, and this time I'm borrowing their points so we could trade points. I might need it now, they might need it later, things like that. So if you have more family members, more friends that does this, you could trade points. I did have to pay one night $252 in Marriott. This is just close to the airport. I didn't have any Marriott points for this, so $252 for 2 people, that's not bad. And at my last leg from Maui to San Diego, again, it's 45,000 American Airline points for 2 people. This time I didn't get charged the $80 per person because I book it outside of the 30-day or 27-day. So I only have to pay the TSA fees, and that's around $6 per person. So 2 people, that's $12. Total points for this trip, I use close to 220,000 points and $656 cash. And this is for 2 people, so per person It's around 110,000 points and $328 out of pocket, which is not bad. I mean, this doesn't include food and activities, but that's not bad at all for such a long trip. The amount of money that I save using points is close to $3,400. I know these hotels that I selected is pretty expensive. So technically I could get an Airbnb and go for a cheaper route, but hey, it's nice to use some of these hotels. I mean, they have a huge pool, especially the Hyatt Regency, they have a really big pool. And is it worth 400? I don't know, but it's a pretty nice hotel. So I'm glad that I could stay there paying mostly with points. I wouldn't pay $400 per night out of pocket though. So total cards used. So in this trip, I use around 2 American Airline cards, 2 Hyatt cards, and 1 Sapphire Preferred. And I'll have some points remaining from these. So for the 2 American Airline card, each card probably give around 50 to 60,000 points. The 2 Hyatt card, each card gave around 40,000 points, and the Chase Sapphire Preferred gave 50,000 points. So total, this is my trip that I did earlier this year. I hope from this sample that you can make your own trip using the credit card bonus points. It does take a lot of planning. The earlier you book it, the better. And plus, when you're using points, a lot of time, like the hotels, you could always cancel. So the earlier you can get those credit cards, the earlier you can travel for free or almost free. Now, the most common question that people ask me about credit card signups is, does it hurt my credit? Well, the answer is temporarily yes. Maybe it'll drop your credit around 20 points. Last time I checked a few months ago, my FICO score is around 780. And at that score range, no lender is really going to give you a different interest rate or eligibility. Usually for mortgages, anything that is above 740 gets treated with the same rate. So as long as you're not buying a house in the next 3 months, I think it's safe to apply for credit card. Now, let me show you my credit score trend. So this is close to FICO. It's called the Vantage score. I think a lot of banks are giving these scores out for free. So this is my Vantage score trend. I think Vantage score gives a higher score than FICO. So if you're converting it to FICO, there might be some discount that you have to apply. But I think the trend says it all. So looking at the past year, it seems like my score only dropped by around 20 to 30 points. And the credit card gives so much benefit that I'm willing to sacrifice temporary discount on my credit score just to get the bonus points. I think it's worth it. I think it's really, really worth it. So that's about it for the step-by-step process. So I think we went over how to value each credit card bonus sign up, how to track your credit card sign up, and how to plan a trip. Now, let me give you some tips that can help you optimize your credit card sign up. The first one is spend. So a lot of time, these cards have high spending minimum requirement. For example, the Citi Thank You, it's $4,000 in 3 months. Usually, for me, I'd like to plan my credit card sign up before I spend a lot of money. So a lot of money as in usually either in the beginning of the year or every 6 months, I have car insurance payments and property insurance payments. Usually I could pay those using a credit card. So I would like to apply for a card before my big spend. I think last year I also spent money on solar. I spent $15,000 to install a solar system for this house, and I signed up for 5 different credit cards before my installation and charged each of them $3,000 each to meet the minimum spend. So that gives me a lot of travel credit card points. Another tip that I want to mention is these days credit card companies are getting smarter. They don't like people like me because I sign up for a lot of cards, use the benefit, and doesn't really make them that much money. So some issuer today, such as Chase, is starting to implement a rule called 524. And you can Google 524 to learn more about it. But in a nutshell, basically they're trying to block anybody who signed up for 5 cars in the last 24 months. So to get the best deal, check which issuer is implementing the 524 rule and make sure you sign up for those cards first. So that's about it for my credit card sign up guide. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a note below and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. This is something that I'm very passionate about, so do let me know. And if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and I'll make more videos about saving money and making good investment decisions. Thanks so much for watching.